All right. Well, remember to do that anyway. Yesterday, with the group, about 30 people showed up with the group. We started going into the domain of the second half of life, of using Jung's uh, the thing he coined. He talked about there's the first half of life and the second half of life, and it's not a real clear demarcation where it is. And then we started talking about soul and and how soul actually has very little meaning in our culture now. So I want to keep going with it a little bit. And those of you who were here yesterday will break a little new ground. Uh, Perhaps our culture has been sort of desouled uh, by maybe bad institutional religion and bad science, which is just strictly kind of what I would call not the best of science, but sort of scientific materialism. I mean, I can't photograph the soul and I can't weigh it and I can't prove it exists. So therefore, according to scientific materialist, it doesn't exist. It's just made up, something somebody made up. Well, it's been around for a long time. It's in all the real wisdom traditions, something the Greeks called it psyche. That's what they called it. And so psychology really meant the study of the soul, although it's gone. There still is that in some psychology, but then some of it is maybe not, maybe doesn't even take the soul into account. Depends on your practitioner. Well, I want to start with a Rumi quote because I really want to talk about what it really means to have a soulful companionship. Want to go into the realm of what most people call relationship, because you find out how your spiritual practice is most easily in relationship. So I want to really go into this idea of uh, companionship. Rumi said in a poem that was just the first three words of it is the title, Sometimes I Forget. Rumi said, sometimes I forget completely what companionship is. Sometimes I forget completely what companionship is. Unconscious and insane, I spill sad energy everywhere. Sometimes I forget completely what companionship is. Unconscious and insane, I spill sad energy everywhere. When you forget completely what companionship is. So I want to explore that today. I want to explore the soul and I want to explore companionship. So here's a short poem, and then we'll sort of try to uh, open it up, break it open a little bit. Then we'll have sort of food to ponder, something to ponder as we sit. The subtext of most egoic relationships is dependency. Ego-driven relationships are inherently self-centered. Companionship of the heart is centered on investing in the soul's agenda and development in both parties. The soul is the force that is always impelling us to grow, to expand our consciousness, to become life-centered. Your soul whispers this question: what am I asking of my beloved companion that I need to do for myself? One fine day, finally carrying your own backpacks, may you accompany each other along the way of the heart. That's what the backpacks were, if you saw the screensaver in the beginning. Those were people walking to on the Camino de Santiago. The subtext of most egoic relationships is dependency. Ego-driven relationships are inherently self-centered. I mean, it's how we all start out. We're running as little kids. You know, we're 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 running on the ego-driven operating system, and as it should be, because we have to figure out, we're just lying there, we can't do anything, we can't even turn over, and so we have this wonderful program that figures out how we can, how can I survive, and it's that woman over there, if she likes me, she'll feed me. We sort of get the idea there, and so how can I get mommy to like me more? That's key. Daddy, well, where is he? I don't know. Where is he in this thing? And then, your older brothers and sisters, do they like me or not? That kind of thing. So, and then finally, after you work that one out, when you get to be about 2, you're working out how to start to become your own person. That's what we call the terrible twos, because the kid's got a life of his own. I said, no, me do it. You don't want to, your mother, putting the airplane in the airport kind of thing, or whatever you do. We used to do it in Italian. My grandmother used to go, boca mia, boca tua, boca mang, and I'd eat the thing. Well, at some point you say, no, I'm going to do it. So then you're into power and control. So we got this self-centered program: survival and security, affection and esteem, power and control. Hey, that's our initial operating system. Beautiful. Thank God. Unfortunately, it just keeps going. It does. There's no crossover, because we have this second operating system in us, which is the operating system of the heart. The egoic operating system is sort of driven, and you're in the ego when you feel driven. The operating system of the heart, you feel a sense of being drawn. Maybe that's connected along with just all other kinds of hormones in falling in love. I'm thinking about all this kind of stuff because on August 8th, it'll be a 50th anniversary of when Pam and I got married. 8/8/71. That was the day. So I'm thinking about long-term relationships. I'm thinking about companionship, soulful companionship. And, I just fell in love with a girl. She was beautiful, and there was just something there. So we got entangled, quantum entangled, as you could say. And thank God for that. But I was running my program. She was running her program. Marriage sort of fell out of tune after about 7, 8 years. That was our first thing. Because when you're running a self-centered program and somebody else is running a self-centered program, which we don't know anything else. We were kids. We were 21. We got married. We're still, a long time before I even saw what I was doing and who she really was. So you start out that way, inherently self-centered. Companionship of the heart is centered on investing in the soul's agenda, not the ego's agenda. And the soul's agenda is about development for both parties, for anybody you're connected with. The soul's agenda is about your development, but it's also about he or she or their development. That's the difference. That's what's called I call it companionship of the heart. We're using the heart thing, centered on investing. It is an investment, but it's an investment in the soul's agenda and development of the heart. Then the soul, the third stanza is, the soul is the force that's always impelling us to grow from the inside. It's pushing us to grow in most cases bigger than we want to be. There's a true sense that we're all wearing shoes too small, baby shoes. You remember your baby shoes? Your mother might have saved them. My mother saved everything. There's sets of, we had 4 sets of baby shoes. I had to deal with all my mother's stuff. She died here, 4 sets of baby shoes. They were all too small for us. Some of us are still wearing them. If you're still running that first initial program, the ego-driven survival program, you're still wearing your baby shoes. Your Birkenstocks are too small. It just won't work, you see. And that's where the breakdown comes, somewhere around midlife. The ego drive can get you through your 30s, maybe even your 40s, but starts to wear out in the 50s, and it really starts to not deliver. If you live to be 60, you got to realize this is a real modern problem, because 1900 in North America, the average lifespan was 47 years. Amazing. 100 years. Now we're living twice that, maybe even more. So you might not have even hit this problem of how to have a companionship of the heart, how to have a heart relationship with not just a husband or a wife or a partner, but friends, a community, the whole world. And the soul is that force that's always impelling us to grow, to expand our consciousness, expand our people that are in our field of compassion and awareness. And it impels us to become life-centered. When you head into the second half of life, you're heading towards leaving the self-center and actually being centered on the growth of all life. Certainly someone you're living with, your family, but then your companions, your friends, the people you work with, to become life-centered. Now, at some point, if you're lucky, if you do this kind of practice of sitting in silence and listening, your soul, which whispers, your soul sometimes, if it's been whispering to you for 30 years and you haven't heard it yet, it will scream at you sometimes. Yeah, I've actually, that was what happened to me. But the soul will, it's always whispering until it just can't whisper anymore, or until it's getting too late. And so it will start screaming in a number of ways. But what is it's trying to get across one question. Put it in the ear, put in the ear of the heart. Here's the question: what am I asking of my beloved companion that I need to do for myself? Listen to that again, because that is the soul question. That's the heart question. If you can finally ever hear that, what am I asking of my beloved companion that I need to do for myself? I think that's the big question in relationships. And then the last bit here is: one fine day, finally carrying your own backpacks, may you accompany each other along the way of the heart. We have our own backpacks to carry. Along the Camino, you carry your own backpack. I married my grandmother. I was looking for that energy. We all start out looking for something. We find a resonance. Pam and my grandmother have the same energy. So that was attractive. Well, that's all right. If you can figure out somewhere along the line that she isn't your grandmother, and she's not going to make breakfast. Her job is not to make breakfast for you and clean your clothes, but that she's a person out there. Yeah, it took a hell of a long time. I'm not really a fast learner. I had to have the soul screaming at me a little bit. One fine day, you finally carry your own backpack. Now on the Camino, you definitely have to do that, but occasionally people get injured. Occasionally people get sick. And I've heard stories of when somebody got injured on the Camino that their partner carried a backpack on the front and a backpack on the back. Yeah, people do get injured. We took care of my parents for the last 7 years of their lives. And sometimes if you get, both when you're a baby and when you're, injured, you can be injured by dementia. So you don't leave them out on the road. But for most of life, when you have a companion, you have to learn to carry your own backpack. You have to learn how to grow up. And we settle, it's settle. This is why you should think about it. Ask yourself that question, write that question down. And it does, you could be, don't have an intimate partner, you're living alone, or it's just you don't have one, but you have friends. What am I asking of my beloved companions that I need to do for myself? Oh, see, this is growing up. That's what the second half of life about is really fully growing up. And we talked yesterday about having a sense of personal authority, and also having from that, then being able to have a personal spirituality, where the voices of so-called experts, you know, don't aren't telling you what to do. You actually somehow start to resonate from the heart and what's true and what's real for you, and then you try to live in line of it. Well, it's a doubly important if you're actually trying to live with somebody, you know, and if you're trying to have companions that that you're treating right. Look at that word companion. It comes, pane is in the middle of it, and it really means on the journey, people you break bread with. That's the ultimate thing Jesus was trying to do, institute this idea of they broke the bread. They were companions. They wanted him to be the savior. Maybe you want your wife to be the savior. Maybe you want your husband to be the savior. Not a good relationship. That's codependency. You're not going to grow up that way. And Jesus knew they weren't going to grow up as long as they thought he was the Messiah or whatever. He was the friend. He called them friends on that last night, you see. He says, don't call me the master. Don't call me all those other names you've been projecting onto me, Messiah, the Savior. He said, we're friends. Let's break bread. That's a good image there. Companions, you see. Jesus told Thomas, it's reflected in his gospel. He said, Thomas, and this is, I think, one key, it's my favorite line from Jesus. It's not in the canonical gospels, so-called, it's in the gospel of Thomas. He said, Thomas, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you did not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. That's the ultimate. It's what Jung calls individuation. It's what's known as growing up. See, all of us know older people, maybe even older than us, who are entirely infantile. Doesn't matter how long you live. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. When you can, what that thing that Jesus is talking about of bringing forth is your sense of your own self. That's what I call personal authority. You do bring that, and that comes out. And then you can have an honest relationship. You can have a soul relationship with somebody else if you don't want anything from them. Don't have to have anything from them. It's interesting. So, I'm just trying to figure this out as you are at 71, being married 50 years, having kids and all that. I'm still pondering this thing. So ponder this. Ponder this question most of all. If you don't get anything else out of this, ponder this question. What am I asking of my beloved companions that I need to do for myself? Yeah. All right. Well, let's sit with this.